So Hare Krishna, welcome to Shloka a Day. Today's Shloka is the 46th Shloka of the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi jnanibhyopi matodhikaha karmibhyaschadhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi jnanibhyopi matodhikaha karmibhyaschadhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi jnanibhyopi matodhikaha karmibhyaschadhiko yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. Please recite after me. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
tasmat yogi bhavarjuna.
tasmad yogi bhavarjuna.
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
tasmat yogi bhavarjuna.
tasmad yogi bhavarjuna.
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
tasmat yogi bhavarjuna.
tasmad yogi bhavarjuna.
Once more. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
jnanibhyopi matodhikaha
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
karmibhyaschadhiko yogi
tasmat yogi bhavarjuna.
tasmad yogi bhavarjuna.
Word for word meaning and translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tapasvibhyaha, than the ascetics. Adhikaha, greater. Yogi, the yogi. Jnanibhyaha, than the wise. Api, also. Mataha, considered. Adhikaha, greater. Karmibhyaha, than the fruitive workers. Cha, also,
also,
adhikaha,
adhikaha,
greater,
greater,
yogi,
yogi,
the yogi,
the
the
yogi,
yogi,
tasmat,
tasmat,
therefore,
therefore,
yogi,
yogi,
a transcendentalist,
a
transcendentalist,
bhava,
bhava,
no, it is
Bhava.
bhava,
bhava,
just become,
just become,
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
O Arjuna.
Oh,
or
Translation: a yogi is greater than the ascetic.
yogi is greater than the ascetic,
Greater than the empiricist,
greater than the empiricist,
and greater than the fruitive worker.
greater than the fruitive worker.
Therefore, O Arjuna,
Therefore, O Arjuna,
in all circumstances,
in all circumstances,
be a yogi.
be a yogi.
So the Lord is comparing three different paths over here. The Lord is saying that a yogi is greater than the ascetic. Ascetic is somebody who has decided to live a very austere life. And then the Lord is saying a yogi is greater than an empiricist, meaning that a yogi is even greater than those who practice the path of acquiring spiritual knowledge. And then the Lord says a yogi is even greater than a karmibhya, someone who practices fruitive activities, which means you are following the Vedic scriptures, but you're doing it for the purposes of material benefits. So these last two shlokas of this chapter 6, which is shloka 46, and the shloka that we will cover on Friday, which is shloka 47, Krishna is concluding this entire chapter by saying the topmost yogi is that yogi that fixes his mind on Krishna. A tapasvi is an ascetic. So he accepts voluntary austerity, leads a very austere lifestyle. So he refrains from any and all sensual pleasures. He refrains from accumulating any wealth. He is also in the pursuit of salvation. Ajnani is a person of learning who's cultivating spiritual knowledge, beginning with the Vedic scriptures. A karmi is performing various Vedic rituals for the purposes of obtaining material benefits, material opulence, and perhaps even to go to the heavenly planets. Here, Lord Krishna is declaring that a yogi is superior to them all. Which kind of yogi? A person practicing dhyana yoga, because this entire chapter is about dhyana yoga. And then Krishna is saying, at all times, Arjuna, be a yogi. So in this ladder of transcendentalism, the karma kandi is at the bottom of the ladder. Above that is the jnani, above that is an ascetic, above that is someone who practices dhyana yoga. So the goal of a karmi, the goal of a jnani, the goal of a tapasvi is actually to achieve worldly things. In the sense, a jnani is trying to acquire knowledge. A tapasvi is trying to conquer his own mind and senses. So a jnana yogi is going to achieve Brahman realization. A person practicing Ashtanga yoga or Hatha yoga will achieve Paramatma realization. So hence the Lord is saying, if you compare the karmi versus the jnani versus the tapasvi, the person practicing Hatha yoga or Ashtanga yoga, here the Lord is using the word yogi, he's the topmost because he is focused on Paramatma realization. As a result, the yogi's accomplishment is on the spiritual platform, whereas all the other accomplishments, whether you want to acquire material things, whether you want to acquire knowledge, or whether you want to practice severe austerities just for the sake of learning how to control yourself. So you may be surprised that this particular shloka, the Lord seems to be endorsing dhyana yoga more than anything else. So there are a lot of organizations that propagate this kind of dhyana yoga. They will recite this particular shloka to prove to you that dhyana yoga is the highest of all yoga paths. However, there is one more shloka left in this chapter. And those who propagate dhyana yoga do not reference the next shloka. But definitely the Lord considers the dhyana yogis to be on a highest platform, but not higher than those who practice bhakti yoga, which we will discover in the next shloka. So although the Lord appears to be endorsing dhyana yoga, he is at the same time talking about that yogi who can achieve absolute perfection. So the word yogi here means somebody who's attempting to connect with the Supreme Lord. So here, the connection, establishing or re-establishing the connection is more important than acquiring knowledge or performing austerities or trying to get material benefits. It is the connection that the Lord is talking about here. So even the dhyana yogi is connected with Paramatma, whereas that person who's practicing bhakti yoga is connected with Bhagavan. So Krishna is saying, in my opinion, if you compare all of these paths, my preference is for those people who are trying to connect with me directly. So and Prabhupada writes beautifully here, that when the linking process is predominantly focused on material desires, that is called karma yoga. When you're attempting to link with the Lord through the process of knowledge, that is called jnana yoga. But when you're trying to link to the Lord directly through a devotional relationship of servant serving the master, such a transcendentalist or such a transcendental path is called bhakti yoga. So in the next shloka, we will discover where the Lord says, in my opinion, those who practice bhakti yoga are the topmost, even higher than those who are practicing dhyana yoga. So in this shloka, the Lord has compared those yogis practicing dhyana yoga to be superior to a tapasvi, to be superior to a jnani, to be superior to a karmakandi. So Prabhupada writes, just simply practicing austerities without knowledge of the Supreme is imperfect. Similarly, simply pursuing the path of knowledge just to acquire knowledge without that mood of surrender is also imperfect. And someone who is just running around following the Vedic scriptures without being aware of who is the Supreme Lord, all of their activities, Prabhupada says, is simply a waste of time. Therefore, in the 47th shloka of the chapter, the Lord glorifies those yogis who are actually practicing bhakti. And with that last shloka, it sets the stage for the Bhakti Yoga section, the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's the essence of the shloka, is the comparison of someone practicing dhyana yoga to that person who is a tapasvi, to that person who is a jnani, and to that person who is a karmakandi.